Hello and welcome to the channel. Here is the latest news about Oak Island treasure which will shock you. About today, Rick Lagina was sitting with his team and they were actually pretty happy about their news discovery at Oak Island. The treasure now almost in their hut as Rick Lagina with his team now decided to take a big chance. They want to get inside the dangerous ways. They are not holding back now. Marty Lagina gives a shocking statement today that it's do or die for us. It's been many years and now we have to go for this. Brothers Marty and Rick Lagina and their team of treasure hunters have been digging around a Nova Scotian island for over 8 years on the popular History Channel show The Curse of Oak Island. During this 9-season run, the Lagina brothers have been on a constant search for hidden treasure, perhaps buried on the island by Spanish pirates, the British military, or even the Knights Templar, while the Lagina brothers and metal detection expert Gary Drayton have mostly found mud, wood, and various metal tools. They, along with an assortment of science and archaeological experts, have made a surprising amount of valuable discoveries hidden throughout the 140 acres of the supposedly cursed Oak Island. But what exactly are these interesting finds, and what historical secrets could they reveal? Perhaps the truth lies within, as we uncover all the treasure ever found on The Curse of Oak Island. Read more. The Curse of Oak Island Season 6, Episode 18 Heavy Metal, while searching for more buried treasure. Metal detection expert Gary Drayton discovers an item strikingly similar to the lead cross found in Season 5. Episode 10, The Signs of a Cross. Drayton's new find is a piece of lead with an intricate design along the edge. It is taken to geochemist Tobias Skowronek, who informs them that it was most likely a cloisonné decoration, an ancient method of decorating jewelry using small metal strips. However, Skowronek provides an even bigger revelation when he tells the team that the lead isotopes are identical to the ones found in the lead cross.
The Lucky 13, Gary Drayton, and Charles Barkhouse return to Lot 21 where many prior discoveries have been made to see if they can't find more. In fact, they find a couple first. They find an 1800s British halfpenny coin. Next, they find a brooch with an ornate rope and leaf design. Once the brooch has been cleaned, Marty Lagina takes a moment to count the branches of the leaf. There are 13. This calls back to the Season 6 finale Lost and Founding, where the team learned of the Appeal to Heaven flag. The flag was flown on ships owned by George Washington. The design included a pine tree with 13 branches. A 13-branch tree is carved into a rock on the north shore of Oak Island. Furthermore, the number 13 is thought to be significant to the Knights Templar, a group already heavily associated with a lot of the treasures unearthed on Oak Island. Read more. Lords of the Ring, the 19th episode of the 7th season of The Curse of Oak Island. Gary Drayton and Rick Lagina continue to search the swamp for submerged secrets, and are amazed to discover a metal ring with a beautifully ornate flower design. The Oak Island team take the finely detailed metal ring to have it examined by gemologist Charles Brain, who is able to determine that the beautifully designed artifact is quite possibly a Spanish silver ring. Brain is even able to date the silver ring to originating prior to 1730, based on various repairing techniques used to make the ring both smaller and larger at different points in time, a reminder of the Spanish Maravedi coin found in the Season 1 finale. The find. The Lagina brothers and their team wonder if they will soon find even more Spanish treasure hidden somewhere on Oak Island. Read more. Trying to find the parameters of a recently found stone pathway that might lead to Oak Island's legendary treasure, archaeologists Miriam Amaralt and Dr. Aaron Taylor dig up a beautiful handmade artifact in The Curse of Oak Island Season 8. Episode 14 Fire in the Hole. Amaralt and Taylor uncover pottery pieces hand-painted in bright red, blue, and green colors. These exquisite pieces are further examples of buried man-made objects spread throughout the underground of Oak Island. These pottery pieces and even more artifacts have been specifically found along the stone pathway the team is attempting to explore. Do these fragments mean they are on the path to more buried treasure? Or will the team of archaeologists leave the site empty-handed? Their team continues to dig near the site to hopefully uncover more of the stone pathway, and even more of Oak Island's many secrets. Read more. Season 9, Episode 2, The Gold Medal. The Oak Island team searches through spoils dug up from boring holes in the Money Pit area. They discover a piece of metal that might just be what they've been searching for since before the show even began in 2014. Period after the team takes the chunk of metal to an archaeology lab to be studied by Dr. Ian Spooner and Laird Niven. The metal is revealed to be composed of many elements, The most interesting result is that about 0.07% of the metal registers as O, more commonly known as gold, later in Season 9, Episode 4. Spoils alert. Another metallic discovery is made just 13.5 feet northeast of the gold found only 2 episodes ago. Once the new source of metal has been X-rayed and studied, it is revealed to be composed of 0.2% gold.
An even larger percentage of gold than the previous find. With trace amounts of gold confirmed to be on the island. Further investigation might reveal a whole lot.
But what the show lacks in concrete evidence of Templars or Vikings, or anything else, it makes up for with a fascinating look at the nitty-gritty of modern-day treasure hunting, and the men and women who have dedicated their lives to it, from money pits to metal crosses, Spanish coins to Roman swords. Here is a list of the top 14 episodes of The Curse of Oak Island. Read more. Discovery of a small lead cross among the rocks of Smith's Cove is presented in this episode perhaps a bit too casually. Rick Lagina and metal detection expert Gary Drayton are taking an unexpected bit of free time to run the old metal detector over the cove at low tide. Rick narrates to the camera how so many of the previous treasure hunting teams had combed the area without much success. After a few minutes of strolling around the rocks, something beeps for Gary. Rick digs out a few shovels worth of earth before they discover the find of the season, a metal pendant in the shape of a cross, with a square hole at the top. This cross will fuel speculation and investigation for the rest of this season, and will prove to be one of the greatest and oldest discoveries in the show's history. Was its uncovering staged? Was it dumb luck? Providence? Who's to say? The lead cross is shown to author and self-proclaimed Jesus descendant Kathleen McGowan, one of the show's leading proponents of the theory that the island was used by the Knights Templar to hide a vast treasure. She claims that the Knights would often smuggle gold jewelry by encasing it in lead, which leads to a brief bout of gold fever in the team. McGowan then attempts to draw a dubious connection between the French town Sarlat-la-Canéda, a purported Templar hangout, and the nation of tries this whopper out. Narrator Robert Clotworthy points out that modern scholarship believes the name Canada to be derived from an Iroquois word meaning village or settlement. As much fun as the show's wild theories can sometimes be, every so often a voice of reason, literally in this case, has to step in and re-establish some reality appropriate. For an island covered in sinkholes and money pits, the metaphorical ground often falls out from under the Lagina Brothers' feet, where supposed major finds turn out to be nothing special. It happens so often that one can't help but feel a little jerked around. So it goes in this mid-season 6 episode, which is full of possibilities, especially concerning a stone recovered in the previous episode, and inscribed with what might be Viking runes. A runic expert visits the war room and informs the team that the carvings are not runes, but maybe a Gothic script. Later, she further deflates the team with her final judgment that the carvings are nothing more than an architectural flourish while excavating the episode's titular slipway or boat ramp. In Smith's Cove, a mysterious concrete wall is discovered. Is this the clue that will blow the search for treasure wide open? To paraphrase Freud, sometimes a wall is just a wall. The money pit has a near mythological significance to the Curse of Oak Island, the site at which treasure was first said to be found by 3 young settlers in 1799. The pit had partially caved in and its exact location was lost by the time the Laginas came to the island. After 8 seasons of poking around the area, sediment samples are examined, and the team is informed that the money pit might hold a large silver deposit, in addition to whatever treasure had been left there centuries ago. Cynical, long-time viewers may feel that this silver news, coming as it does at the very end of the season as winter sets in on Nova Scotia, is a cliffhanger meant to goose interest in yet another season of mostly fruitless treasure hunting. In the traditional season and wrap-up in the war room, Gary Drayton perhaps admits more than he means to in his hopes for the next year. I'm really looking forward to getting back into the swamp, and I can't wait to get stuck in. Possibly the series' best example of massive hype followed by crushing disappointment is the saga of the Roman sword. Treasure hunter Charles Barkhouse presents the Lagina brothers with what appears to be a ceremonial sword from the time of Roman Emperor Commodus, pulled from the waters off Oak Island in the 1940s. The find opens up entirely new vistas for the team, whose historians had already posited that the treasure had come from France via the Knights Templar, and could perhaps even be the Ark of the Covenant. The possibility that the Roman Empire had somehow made first contact with the Western Hemisphere on Oak Island felt too good to be true, which, of course, it was. A visit to a local university proves that the sword was not of ancient Roman origin, but rather a reproduction dating from the late 19th century. But as these things go, a century-plus old intact replica sword is not a terrible find. The Laginas have certainly spun gold from worse straw than this. But there's an undeniable disappointment in closing the book on such a rich vein of alternate history, and it's a reminder how long people have been searching for treasure on Oak Island, and how much the odds are stacked against the Laginas to succeed where they all failed. The pursuit of gold stretches into the past as well as the present in this Season 4 episode, which finds the drilling team searching for it in the money pit, while Charles Barkhouse and a journalist search the local archives and make a surprising find of all the wild theories about Oak Island's treasure that the show has indulged over the years. The one that holds the most water is that the treasure was buried by the infamous Scottish pirate Captain William Kidd at some point in the 18th century. That theory is given a major boost by Barkhouse's discovery in the archives of not only the deathbed confession of a seaman who allegedly sailed with Kidd and buried his treasure on Oak Island, but also an 1883 map of the island with Kidd's treasure helpfully inscribed on it. Facts about Oak Island are still difficult to come by, of course, but compared to the wild ravings of Knights Templar and ancient Romans, buried pirate treasure seems like a sober, reasonable explanation. As the episode's punny title indicates, the crew opens up a new drilling location, designated H8, and almost immediately finds a human bone fragment. When first pulled from H8, Rick, Charles, and their geologist feel it and knock it against the table and take guesses at what it might or might not be. Not a stone, says the geologist. Could it be ironwood, the super dense tropical wood used in shipbuilding? Yes, perhaps it could be. The scene plays a bit too dumb for its own good, but the payoff comes quickly. When local archaeologist Laird Niven is presented with the curious artifact in the war room, he takes one look and calls it a bone. Everyone plays at being shocked, and perhaps this time they were. Bone, especially human bone, is a serious find, one they would have every right to be excited over. We're gonna follow where the bone leads, Marty Lagina says, and for once that is the absolute right decision. Season 5 begins with this 2-hour premiere, as the team returns to an island ravaged by storms over the winter. Despite having to clear debris and rebuild the South Shore Road, the Lagina Brothers are determined to pick up where they left off at the end of Season 4. But this time bigger, better, and metal detector Gary Drayton and Lagina's nephew Peter Fornetti head out to Isaac's Point and uncover what Gary immediately guesses is a Spanish or English coin from the mid-18th century. The narrator reminds us that any find that might date to before the 1795 discovery of the money pit is important, as the island was virtually uninhabited. A fragment of a metal axe head and a rose head nail are the other significant finds of the episode, which is perhaps a little scant for 2 hours of broadcast. But the episode nonetheless earns its place on the list, for unexpectedly emotional reasons, as it's announced that treasure hunter Craig Tester's son Drake has passed away. The episode is dedicated to his memory, and later in the season one of the team's new boreholes will be named DMT in his memory. The Season 5 finale takes stock of the artifacts uncovered during this momentous season. Multiple iron spikes, suggesting that there really was a shipwreck on the island at some point, the ruby brooch, that turns out to not be ruby, but may still be 400 to 500 years old, the lead cross found in the rocks of Smith's Cove, and the human bone fragments found in the new H8 borehole. Any further progress into borehole DMT is flummoxed by the discovery that the steel plate the team believed to be down there is in fact a granite boulder. As cold weather approaches, excavating shuts down for the season. There's a canned feeling to many of the show's finales, as each ends with the Laginas rededicating themselves to Oak Island and to each other, often with a tear-filled speech. For this season, though the sentiment feels earned, the bone fragments alone would be enough to excite and confound even the most skeptical of viewers, and, as the show has long established, these brothers are no skeptics. The episode's titular stones are the 5 granite boulders on the property of longtime Oak Island resident Fred Nolan, which when viewed from above appeared to make the shape of a cross. 2 stonemasons brought in to examine the boulders have made a discovery on what would be considered the base of the cross, an artificially smooth surface on its underside suggesting the boulder was dragged into position from somewhere else. There's a goofy fun to the scene of 5 grown men staring intently at a large, moss-covered rock. In many ways, this is the tone of the show whittled down to its essence, the willingness of Oak Island and its stars to risk looking ridiculous, fawning over a rock, taking it as gospel that this rock must have been manipulated by hand, is the base of its infectious appeal. Charles Barkhouse and Rick Lagina congratulate the stonemasons on their find with the line of the episode. If not the entire series, Oak Island is a 1,000-piece puzzle, with 500 pieces missing, says Charles, and you just added one. Rick finishes one of the maddening parts of any conspiracy theory, when viewed from the outside, is how the believer will use the absence of evidence as proof that the theory is correct. Take local researcher Paul Speed, who enters this episode with a doozy for the Lagina Brothers, that the construction of the money pit and the island's flood tunnels is reminiscent of Cornish mining techniques, and British privateer Sir Francis Drake must have been responsible for them, choosing Oak Island to hide a cache of ensign gold stolen from Spain. The fact that there is no record of Drake sailing to the New World simply proves that this secret mission must have really happened. There is an appeal to that line of thinking, and its self-justifying logic can be found across many of the other Oak Island theories. Paul Speed, to date, has not returned to the show, and the Drake theory would of course turn out to be something of a red herring, especially considering the real evidence of the episode. The bone fragments found in borehole H8 are of European and Middle Eastern origin, as much as the show presents the Lagina Brothers and their team as pioneers in the field of Oak Island treasure hunting. Every so often it takes the long view and reminds us that holes have been dug across the island for over 200 years. Rick and Marty aren't the first men to excavate Oak Island, and likely won't be the last.
Such fatalism, bordering on futility, is the unintended subtext of this episode's visit to the descendants of Harold Bishop, who worked on the island as a crane operator in the 1960s. Bishop's family provides the Laginas with a piece of wood that he claims to have pulled from the money pit. When the wood is tested, it is estimated to be from the mid-17th century, older than the earliest stories of the money pit by nearly 150 years. History keeps its secrets on Oak Island and is in no hurry to reveal them, not even with a camera crew present.